No, that's okay. This should be alright. If I keep it close to here, then it should be alright.
Then angle it upwards. It's not listening to your beard, Daniel. Try it.
Test 1, 2, 3. Titties, big titties, brown titties.
Welcome to Not Culture 2022, ladies and gentlemen.
God, it's March.
It's Smarch.
It's March.
Smarch.
Fuck.
Smarch the 17th. 18th! Yeah, it's just one of those days, everybody. I've had a week. How about you?
That's been, I had a week as well. It's been busy.
Indeed.
Bit everywhere.
Indeed. Yes.
Yes.
Well, anyway, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna start the official spiel.
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Oh, shit. Alright, yeah.
Alrighty, let's go. Howdy, folks, and welcome to Not Culture, the podcast about everything but culture. I'm your host, Godfreyman Captigao, joined by my co-host and polished or getting better learn driver, Daniel Levi.
Hey, I like
yes,
that, yeah.
Daniel, how have you been this week?
Busy on the road a lot. It's been hectic.
That's good.
A lot of runs that didn't turn into anything, but all good. I think it's raining slightly outside.
Oh, that's nice.
Bit of what's it called? Sun piss, as
Yeah.
I'd call it. Like the sun's out, and the rain's coming
sun's
down.
up or rain's out. That's a really good mix, though. Yeah, sun on your skin, getting that good vitamin D, and it's just water from the sky that's getting you wet. You know, I think that's a good mix that everyone should get. You know, every now and then we all need some wetness and vitamin D in our lives. But have you noticed that on every day that we've done a show, it's rained?
Oh, it's very overcast. Well, sun's out now.
And it's rained.
Yeah.
Our entire final weekend, it rained. Our entire Saturday.
Oh my God, yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, sorry if anyone doesn't know. We're talking about this show that we've been doing at the Mosby Arts Theater called Bottoms Up, which is an adaptation of a show from 2017, if I'm not wrong, by the name of Something Rotten that we've been putting up at the Mosby Arts Theater over the last 3 weeks. I'll say comfortably.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this would be the third technically, even though we didn't know that we'd have an encore show performance tonight.
Right, tonight.
Yes. And that's really been the thing that has, well, at least for me, has taken the reins in my life, and I wasn't able to do much else outside of work and, doing things to make sure that I keep my power on and stomach full. I'm still trying to get back into the fasting thing, which is nice. But it's been fun.
Oh, it has. Just very, very busy. I think I realized this during the show days, even rehearsal days. I realized that I was spending so much money just trying to keep myself fed for energy for the shows and for the rehearsals.
That's it. Absolutely. No, same. When I had my meals with me, I always make sure to bring some to rehearsals. But then my issue was that I'd never eat during the rehearsals because we didn't have enough time to eat. And if we did have break time, we'd all just sit around and talk about how tired we were rather than actually eat or drink something.
Gosh.
Which is, lesbians. We always do that sort of thing. You gotta love them. Can't live with them. Can live without them. I just said can. Anyway, but that's what we've been up to. Wow, the last time we did an episode, we hadn't even seen No Way Home. Am I correct?
Oh, geez, yeah.
That was the week of.
And I think as of today's recording, I think the official Blu-ray release is coming out soon, I think.
It has, yeah. We're recording this on the 18th, and it did come out on the 15th, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Because I'm seeing all of the high-res posts up everywhere. They released the first 10 minutes of the entire movie online for everyone to watch. And, in that 10 minutes has a really big cameo of...
Wait, is he in the first 10 minutes?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I went through it. He's there. I'm
nice.
pretty sure. But yes, we have been busy, which is why we have not been able to do any episodes of Not Culture. But then something came around in our, in our abundance of free time. Something has come around that has really given us an excuse and an opportunity to do another episode, and that was a documentary that Dan and I were invited to see at Paradise Cinemas on Thursday, the 17th of March, by the name of Ophir. And it was something. It was something. We'll. Do you want to get into it now, or
I
should we
guess. I mean-
breathe into it, Daniel?
Oof.
Because as we started this episode, I didn't want to do any structuring or anything.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't mind getting into it.
All
'Cause
right.
I think, yeah.
Initial thoughts, and then we can go from there. What do you
Initial
think?
thoughts. I think as soon as I came out, it was I found it very confronting to a certain degree.
It's a good
Because
word.
the film is about basically it's told very well. It's basically the events leading up to the Bougainville crisis, and I really like that perspective because whenever people hear about what happened in Bougainville, they're always thinking about the war and what happened in the 80s and the 90s. But this film, I feel like does a very good job in basically setting up things for why the conflict happened, why all this started, why
That's an interesting
all the issues
thing.
came up. Yeah.
That's an interesting point you bring up because, yes, there are gonna be full spoilers in this for anyone who's was planning on watch. If that's okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something really big that I noticed that you probably just brought up now is the fact that how they provide so much context for all the huge, massive events that have happened in Papua New Guinea, in particular with Bougainville, but they never really zero in on those big events themselves. Like they talk about the context and the people, the things that everyone was feeling around those times, but they never really talk about the events themselves. One, because I think that these events have already had enough light shed on them. Because I'm pretty sure there was a movie, that was made, I think 10 years ago, that it was around. It was about the Bougainville crisis. Right?
I think so. Yeah, during
Mr.
right in the
Pip,
yes.
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so some of these events have already had enough light shed on them, and I think what this documentary does so well is highlighting the ordinary people and what they felt going through it, and what they thought about these events, and it does that so well to the extent that it doesn't need to cover those bigger, larger events. And I think that's where this documentary, its strengths lie the most in how it can tell the stories of just regular people in such a compelling way. And for me, I think as someone who's come from a background of making videos and editing in particularly, I think this is one of the first film going experiences where I'd call editing in a film brave or courageous. And I think that's a testament to how much patience there is in telling this story. It's like for context, I'd want to throw up some of the other documentaries that have been locally produced here that I've seen, and how when you watch those, there's sort of a sense of something's pushing this thing to be made. It always seems to find there always seems to be like an external force outside of actual filmmakers attached to it, and for example, sponsors or other producers that don't really have a creative say in it, but they just want, oh hey, we need this thing out by in a month. Go get them. No, but with this, you can tell that in just by virtue of the editing, for me, it stuck out that these guys took their time to tell this story, and the amount of polish that comes with that when you give an artist time to tell the story that they want to tell, it shows through this. And I really hope. I mean, no, the shitty thing is when we're like regular people who don't really dive into filmmaking as much as you and I do.
Right, they won't notice these
They're
things.
not gonna notice this for shit. But it's the people who spend so much time doing this. Like, I literally have been doing this every day for the last 6-7 years. It's difficult not to see, and it's difficult not to point this out, and it's difficult not to praise this movie for this, because that's all I can see. It's just how much time and attention and detail and polish went into this. Because I want to ask you, how long do you think it took them to make this?
Oh gosh, just looking at it, it looks like a couple of months. But in terms of how long the production was, like from beginning to end, ugh. I am unclear on when they started filming. Because for context, when the actual filming was, I think, when the set this is before the referendum. This is before the Bougainville people voted for the independence.
I think that was like the last bit of filming. Like, it's the last bit of principal photography that they would do.
Right.
Principal photography being when the crew has to go out to gather actual B-roll, A-roll for the whatever it is for the project, right? So that felt like that was the last thing that they did. But man, they've also got stock footage. They've got commercials from the 60s.
The propaganda
70s,
footage.
yeah. And they've got they've got interviews that date back to what, 2013, 2012? Mm-hmm. If I can remember that. And so, I mean, this really seems like a project that, like I said, they were just given so much time to work on, because who knows how far they have all this footage for. But then again, I want to point out that these two filmmakers, Alexandre Berman and Olivier Pollet, have made some documentaries here before. I do know that. I can't pull up their names right now, though. I'll put them in the show notes, definitely. But I just wanted to point out that they do have experience in shooting and filming here. So I think it's from that. It's like, when you've been doing multiple projects in a single location, I'm guessing you can like get a pool of footage, right? And then you can pick from that to create the narrative that you want to. And I'm pretty sure that's what they did for this, and it worked really well. It worked incredibly well.
It was told so well. And the other thing I noticed is that it doesn't have the usual documentary layout of whenever there's a subject on camera, they put their name and who they are, how they are related to this conflict. There's nothing. They literally just show their faces and like, this is their idea, this is their opinions, this is their beliefs, and then cut to the next scene.
Yep.
But then you do feel a sense of like they're telling a story from beginning to end, as they're like going down the timeline of events, and then
absolutely,
and then they're touching on how things were affected, like when the mining starts. Like for example, when they reach the point in the documentary where they touch on when the mining started, they touch on what happened to all the rocks that they dug up and where they were dumped, and then they go to the wastelands. I had no idea there were wastelands. I didn't know that's like I've seen the contaminated rivers. I know of that, but I had no idea that there were entire areas of just no trees because they dug up rocks that weren't supposed to be dug up and then just dumped them somewhere, and that affected the entire environment.
Right, because there was, to follow on that point, in the fact that they don't have these lower thirds or supers to, have these titles or names of people. What I think they were going for there is just more of a sense of immersion, because I think they wanted to make it more of a filmic experience rather than a documentary or a news report or a journalism thing. I think they wanted to tie in this journalism filmmaking and investigative filmmaking. They wanted to tie it in with this film experience, and I think they did a really good job of that, like you said. And the only times where you do, and I don't want to say get pulled out of it, or because the way they did it was very smooth, though the only time where this is changed in any way or just altered was when they would put up graphics of just smooth text only, and they would fit it into the cinematography incredibly well. Some of these like standing shots, some of these the B-roll that they've done or just of environments is really breathtaking. It's stunning, and the way they folded these little bits of exposition as text, I thought that was really helpful, because it gave us it gave us the purpose. I mean, it gave us what it was meant to, exposition, right? And it did that really, really well and really smartly, and dare I say it, artistically. Like the one that you just brought up, a bit about the quarries and how much rock that they had to dig up to, like how many metric tons did they bring up? It was an incredibly ridiculously large number, and then it was just followed by only 0.6 of that was useful mineral to these companies that were doing the mining. And it was a really good contrast, and it was just subtle, and it was nice, and it was beautiful, and I thought they are definitely in a good direction with that in this film, and I thought it was incredible. And I think a lot of people around the world also thought it was incredible, since it's been to over 100 festivals across 45 different countries, and has won 23 awards. I'm pretty sure they won more than 23 at this point. 23 awards. And it took the top prize at the 2020 Tahiti Film Festival. We're a hit in Tahiti, Daniel.
Oh, nice.
Wow. Well, at least these guys are, and the people of
Oh,
Royal Hill. Yeah. A movie like this is something that the current leaders in power, I think, should pay attention to, just to go see it, because as far as cautionary tales go, this is the first one I'd lean in to say that it's actually inspiring. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't... One thing I like about it is that it doesn't hit you over the head with a message. It literally just presents you facts, opinions, and people telling their stories, and it doesn't tell you how you should be feeling. It's like it leaves it up to the viewer. It's not preachy. Is one thing I'd say about it. At no point did I feel like they were trying to like hit me over the head with a message. It's like they were literally just presenting facts,
right?
And how you were affected by it, and how they were presenting the facts as well with
absolutely
with the what's it called, cinematography, and how the shots and the everything was just.
And I mean, and if you come from a journalism background, Daniel, I think for anyone listening who has that background would understand that with something like this, on paper, it's basically a news piece, right? I mean, that should be what most documentaries are. They shouldn't be, they shouldn't be trying to sway you in any direction. They should be just giving the facts, and that's what this movie does, and it does it really well. In fact, I think the only thing I think it does when it falters, I guess, in trying to be unbiased is, I don't even know if it was trying to do that, honestly, but but there are moments where the documentary hits extremely hard, and it does get emotional at points, but it does so without any, and I say this being an editor, it does so without any interference from the filmmakers themselves outside of these filmmaking techniques. Because in documentaries that I've been a part of here, you see so much of this stuff where the filmmakers behind it, the editors, the directors, the writers, they sort of tell you the story, which I think there's nothing wrong with if you're trying to lead people in a certain direction. But with something like this, when you want to tell the story of someone else or tell other people's stories, it's good to let the people themselves do the talking, and that's all that this does.
Yeah.
Like, it literally is. The only time we hear a voice of someone in the production team is when they're narrating some, I want to say, quote unquote, evidence that they find.
Oh, this, there's a very good voiceover work, though. Nicely read, of this, an anthropologist hired by the original mining company to, his thoughts on how he thinks the company should do, he thinks the company should handle the situation, what they should do to sort of sway the local people in their favor. And it's just, it's read so dramatically, and the music, it's just great. It's just done so well.
No, yeah, dramatic is one word I'd say to describe it, but another word I'd say to describe it is also incredibly cold.
Very clinical,
and cold, clinical, but it serves a twofold purpose, I think. One, to when you're on the production team and you're reading something like this, again, you don't want to do the thing where you inject emotion into it and sway people in a direction, but it also it sort of creates the character of that anthropologist who is reading through, and this is his words, he's writing them down, right? And it sort of creates that character and helps you understand who he was as a person, as this guy who was sent by those mining corporations to observe the local population, and what did he say? And how would I say it? He advised these corporations what to do next. And twofold, right? It was for the narration itself, but it also gave us an insight into this character. And both of those can fit that description of cold and clinical and almost calculating. It was almost scary the way he was going through it.
He was he was an anthropologist. He's treated it like a study, but it wasn't like a study for a university. It was a study for a corporation. So he was the aims of the study and his findings and his reports were angled in that way.
Yep.
So I think that's why it felt cold, because he wasn't doing this study for academic purposes. It was for how can this company sway the locals. That's basically why he was sent in.
Yeah, and when you're dealing with a company this large, I think It's depressing, but when you're sent to do something like this, the only thing that matters with that is money, and money has no feelings. Money doesn't care about you.
Gosh,
Sadly,
I did like there were some shots where they intercut, I guess, the positivity in the propaganda, the promo propaganda for the mine. And then they'd intercut it with like how the place looks now, how damaged the environment is now. Oh,
that is a really good example of like the filmmakers pushing that idea of how this has affected the actual people living in Bougainville now, without ever having to make an appearance on camera or say something on camera. Like, that is pure editing, and as an editor myself, that blew my mind at how it's almost pushing into satire. Right? How they
what was there was one clip
where
there was a local guy asking no, not the old man, the one who was like, do you think we're moving too fast or something? And then it immediately cuts to like this truck like speeding around the mountain way. I was like, was that on purpose? Or I don't know, but probably, it's just the editing in this was so good.
It was, and that's like, I go back to my earlier point of how this editing is like how I describe it is brave, courageous, it's patient, because you get a sense that these guys just had the time to sit through this themselves and edit this the way that they wanted to. They didn't have to show this to an investor and say, oh, right, hey, do you like this? And then the investor would have probably been like, oh, I don't like this. This guy's face is on the frame for too long. We couldn't even see his face. I don't know why I sound like Trump, but we can't even see his face properly. I mean, it's amazing what they did with it, and it shows through. I mean, if you are an editor and you're hearing about us talk about this movie, can you go see this movie and just like talk to everyone else, talk to us about what you thought of its editing in particular? Because to me, it wins as an edit. It's also really cool that I noticed in the brief that we were given for this, one of the directors, his name Alexandre Berman, he also did the edit for this. I saw also. I mean, as someone who writes, directs, and edits, that's like the holy trinity. You want to do all of those things yourself. Unless you like, the only reason I'd give an edit to someone else is to take something that I've seen and put it into their perspective. But if it's all you every step of the way, it's just, I mean, it's a little vain, but it also creates some incredible art, especially if you've been doing it for so long. Yeah,
and it shows.
Absolutely. And I know I keep going back to this, but I just want to bring up just how patient and how some of these, just like with the example I said, how they just let some cuts play out. They let some of the shots that they got of people during interviews, people giving speeches, they let that play out. They let them cry just out on while they were being recorded on stage, wherever they were. And the impact that has to someone who is paying attention, who's given all of their attention, and who's basically got their claws in something so deep. Like, that might be to each his own, but that hits hard. At least for me, it did. And that's one of the things I thought about it. And it lends itself to also, as an example, it lends itself to be the thing that I'd call about this being brave and courageous. It does its own thing without asking to have permission from anyone else. Right. And I think it delivers on that. But for you, I want to ask, Daniel, I mean, just one thing on the top of your head, whatever's on your head right now, what's your favorite thing about this movie? Go! Say it. Go.
The music, the sound design.
Why? Thank you. I was hoping you'd bring that up because I want to lead into that too.
God, no, it was just done so well. The music is beautiful, how it's mixed in with traditional instruments and songs, and just the sound design, everything about it, and then how it's good sound design. It's good sound design, and especially coming from, if you've seen the Batman, that was one of our issues with the Batman. Is the sound design was all over, the levels and everything were all over the place. But with this movie,
man, that's the thing about sound, especially with people who work in podcasts now. We try to take sound really, really seriously, and I mean, this is something I've known for a long time. But like, if you have terrible sound in a video, people are gonna get immediately turned off because they can deal with shitty shots and shitty editing and just bad graphics and bad visual effects. But as soon as you have this consistent bad recording of people, they would rather just not. And that's when you take in something like this documentary. I want to say that a lot of people just really won't notice how good the sound design and the mixing especially is for this film, because holy shit is this smooth. Oh my gosh, there were so many instances where I just kept on wondering, it's like, how the hell did they get this sound this crisp, this clean? And I could barely see anyone. They weren't wearing lavs or anything. I think there's one scene where I noticed someone was wearing a lav, but I mean, they were obviously using like a boom with a dead cat that was probably worth like $5,000 or something, because it gets through. And that's the thing about sound. If you don't say anything about it, if you don't have an opinion about it, it was probably fucking flawless. And if you do have something to say about it, it was shit. That's the thing that people won't really understand with sound design, sound mixing, and sound design and sound mixing in documentary or in a film, because it's invisible. You don't want to pick it up unless it's worth picking up to complain about, or unless you're on the other side of that spectrum and you're like, oh my god, the sound made my ears have an orgasm. So it's like. And like, I want to go that far. It was so good. Just in like, for the music as well. I did not note down who did the music of this. But
the composer did an amazing job.
And I would not have guessed that they brought in a third-party composer to do this, because it's such a good blend of taking all of these traditional sounds and traditional, like, they've got recordings of people singing on screen that someone managed to blend really smoothly and transition into some scores that they've done. And it's just mind-blowing. Like, I understand why this film has won over 20 like awards and has been to literally around the country to over 45, around the world to over 40 plus countries. And I think for me that is a close runner-up to my editing as my favorite thing about this movie. Yeah, so good pick. You've got good ears, Daniel. Anything else you want to say about this? I really feel like we've been gushing.
Well, I don't know, I guess the way I love how this did handle the themes, because there's a lot of heavy themes, but it never gets brutal with what it shows on camera. That's like it I guess it relies a bit on the audience to have at least some background knowledge on what happened, what the conflict was, and all that. But none of there's no, let's say, shocking imagery. There's no violence ever really shown in this documentary, which I really like it. It's more or less just people's testimonies and their memories and their stories about what happened. And I think one thing that I didn't realize about the whole conflict and everything was, I think I was talking about this movie to someone last night, and I described it how just the pain the people were feeling and how it was displayed on film, and how it's been affecting them for this many years. And they keep bringing up the number of 15 to 20,000 or 25,000 people who were lost during the conflict. And I think what I compared it to in my own words was how similarly how the people are carrying all this pain and how they're still dealing with it. It reminded me a bit of how, basically, to a degree, how the Holocaust affected the Jewish community and how they were still dealing with that just losing that number of people and the pain and like how much that conflict took from them. I think that's just one comparison I drew. And then, like I said, like this isn't something that's brought up in news. The pain, like we see them, I think throughout the documentary there were several times when there's different memorial ceremonies that they were holding about, and then just raw footage of people on stage talking about the people they've lost, and testimonies of how I lost my husband, I lost my brother, I lost my father, like people just talking about how much the conflict hurt them. And then, like I said earlier, whenever we hear about the conflict, that's all we ever hear about, like, oh, the conflict happened because of the mine. But then I love how this film beginning, like, it chronologically sets up a timeline of how this is what happened, this is when the mine stepped foot in the country, and how they affected everything. And it was just, it's very educational, and it doesn't, like I said earlier, it doesn't hit you over the head with a message. I honestly think that a lot of school children should watch this. A lot of people from our generation and younger should see this movie, because for me and Godfrey, we were not alive when the conflict happened, or we were babies or too young to properly take in what was happening. So and it, like I said, it doesn't show horrific imagery. It doesn't show, I guess, news footage. There is like some handheld camera footage. I'm very curious of where that came from. Who was taking the footage of that? Like
That's,
old,
and that was the extent of, I'd say, the most violent thing they would have shown, which is basically people during the conflict firing weapons.
Yeah.
And that's it. And like you said, most of the pain, it comes from these people just telling their stories on screen. And I'd go back to say that the editing has a testament to that, but it's going back to the on-ground, filmmaking and capturing of the footage. It's the fact that these filmmakers just got up and close to these people and were able to just capture that and put it on the screen, and then just turn into this amazing documentary. And I do agree with you when you say that children should see this. I think, definitely, they should definitely see this.
There's no swearing. There's no... There's no
honestly. It's clean. If there are any parents out there wondering if their kids should go see it, if anything, they'll just have to, if they can, follow along with what's being said and what's actually happening on screen at some of the funerals that are being shown, or these memorials that are happening. That's, I guess, the heaviest thing that happens into this.
Yeah.
But it is heavy, but it's only heavy in relative to your understanding to the subject. And that topic, that thing that you brought up, it doesn't show these conflicts. It relies on the audience to know about these things. It's like what I was saying earlier, where the documentary focuses on the people and their stories around these events. It's like there's like this massive thing in the center of this, so much other things, and it's just people around it and reacting to it, and it doesn't bother to show people what that is, because I think the filmmakers, and this film in particular itself, it understands that the people, the audience who are going to go see it, already have an understanding of what this is. It's just filling in gaps of knowledge around it, and more importantly, it's filling in with these testimonials of the people who are on the ground and what they felt and what they were going through, which is as important, if not even more important to me, to my understanding. But any final thoughts? Any closing thoughts?
Oh gosh, I guess everybody should watch this movie. I feel like if you have time, and I'm not sure how much it's being priced for. I think it's open to all cinemas. I don't think it's at this point. I think it just it recently released at Paradise Cinema, but I think everybody should watch this, and I can only imagine how the international community reacted to this. I think whenever say they see traditional Sing Sing stuff ever presented to them on camera and films and whatnot, but I feel like it's very important for at least as many people in PNG to watch this as well, because these are themes that we will all sympathize with. I mean, they touch on things like how local people can get easily tricked or swept up in the promises of big money from these mining corporations, and how they can be basically screwed over by legal papers and laws and things. And it's a cautionary tale. It really is a cautionary tale that everyone in PNG and everyone in the Pacific should watch before it's too late, because it touches on issues that matter to us, like land rights, land ownership. I mean, it's very relevant to us specifically because we are landowners as well. Like, we have land that belongs to us and our clans and our families. So, like I said, the themes in here are very relatable and relevant to us. So I think as many people in PNG should watch this as well. And like you said earlier, leaders should watch this as well, because there's a bit where there's the local people saying that they weren't aware of a certain law, but then the representative from the government was saying, we went around and told everyone about the law already. Everybody's on board. So there's so much.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So there's a lot of relatable stuff that a lot of people will relate to in this movie, and it is a cautionary tale. As many people as possible should watch this film. I'm hoping this gets a physical release, as physical discs that people can watch as well. As I just want this to be distributed. It's a very important film.
Yeah, as many people as possible need to see this. And I just want to say, as an ending note, good time, as in good release time for this.
Oh, yeah.
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 If everyone knows what this year is about, and how if in a context like that, this film can be taken as so far as how people in leadership can be taken or should be held accountable for things that happen under their leadership. I mean, this documentary is a prime example of what people need to start doing in order to do, or of what people need to basically see their leaders as. Just people who need to be more accountable. And this is a good first step. But I think that just about wraps it up. I think we don't want to give away too much. I just thought about a couple more things to say, but that's it's leading into the more artistic side of this documentary. And this documentary does have an artistic side. Let me tell you that. But it blends it so well with filmmaking and journalism, investigative. Good, proper investigative journalism. I just also want to bring up the fact that the other half of this directing duo, Olivier Pollet, they are also an investigative journalist, or they come from a background of investigative journalism. So it's not far-fetched to say that this comes through in the film, just because of the amount of research that is put on screen. Just by, like, some of it's given by the people, obviously, for context, but for major exposition, it's given as those smooth, subtle bits of text on screen. And I think it's never too much, but it gives us enough story, it gives us enough exposition to go along with. And I think that's really great. And I think only someone with experience like that in this field, with both investigative journalism and filmmaking, and especially a duo like this, could deliver something like this. And I'm glad this team has, and I'm so glad that I went to see it. I'm so glad that we were both invited by Paradise Cinemas to go and watch as media, because we're media now, Daniel.
Oh wow, we need shirts.
We need shirts. Let us know in the comments if you think I should get shirts, and let me know if they should be like the shirt that Dan's wearing, or if it should be like the shirt that I'm wearing, which I just want to say, it's a lot more comfortable, and Port Moresby's really, really fucking hot. And let us know, and we appreciate all your feedback. But that brings us to the end of this discussion of Ophir, which is currently playing at Paradise Cinemas. We're pretty sure it's the standard pricing in terms of tickets, and it started on the 17th of March, which was yesterday, Thursday. And it'll be playing, I hope, for a very long time. But that all depends on you guys listening, whether or not you want to go out and pay to see this movie, which I think, of course, it's absolutely worth it. But yeah, that wraps that up. Dan, any closing remarks? Anything you want to say? It doesn't have to be completely related to the film. If you want to touch on anything, if you want to just chill and tell our viewers how much you've missed them.
I mean, I guess, it's been a while. This is our first episode of the year.
This is our first episode of the year.
We should have. Okay. We will have. No, I'm assuming we will. The next episode we will give our thoughts. Giving anything on No Way Home for the next episode, because I feel like
now you've said it.
No Way Home and Batman.
Oh done. God! No, it's set in stone. Damn it, Daniel. Now I'm gonna have to. You know what? I'm gonna have to teach you how to edit these yourself, so then you can start doing it. So then I can focus on the thing that's making sure that we're both still employed. Yeah. But thank you guys for tuning in. Let me just bring up my script for the closing spiel. Yes. I'm Sean Connery for a second. Thank you for listening, everybody. Not Culture is hosted and recorded by Daniel Levi and God Freeman. Captagal is edited by myself and soon to be Daniel Levi.
Yay.
And our music is created not yet by the Clueless Panda, but it will be once more. I just got to bring him in and, get this thing on the top of my list. Oh, Jesus Christ. And we've got new episodes out whenever they're out. Because we just gotta take a look at that again. But thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this one. And we will see you all next time.